Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning, Monday morning, November the 21st. I'm glad to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another. We're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. And the chat room's open. I just put the chat room open there and popped the link into there, what we're looking at from Soul Expressions, Abuse Recovery, a website from Becky, and dealing with sexual abuse and with child sexual abuse, whatnot. So it's a great website, www.soul-expressions-abuse-recovery.com. If you type in your browser, Soul Expressions Abuse Recovery, it'll probably come up. And, thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate everybody tuning into my shows as always. And, for taking the time to spend this time with me. Tomorrow will be the 2-year anniversary for me on Blog Talk Radio. And I had no idea how long I'd be on Blog Talk Radio. But, I was thinking 6 months or something. But 2 years has gone by, and really 2 years of my healing journey has gone by. And last night I was talking a little bit about, the issues sort of lately that I've been really working through my healing journey. And I made a decision last night, so I'll be talking about that today too. And this is great, really good news for me for sure. And it sort of all comes together, culminates really at a very strange but appropriate time as I was looking at Becky's website, Soul Expressions Abuse Recovery, because last Friday we were talking about looking at forgiveness, how to forgive and whatnot. And Becky was talking about the fact that she said, that she needed to forgive herself. She says, how to forgive if you're a survivor. Have you forgiven yourself yet? And I kind of went into that and was talking a little bit about how I felt about that. And the fact that really I didn't do anything to actually carry the guilt, and I knew where I knew where all that guilt belonged, and that was with my abusers. So I didn't have a problem with that as far as taking on the responsibility of my abuse. I didn't feel guilty for so many survivors may feel guilty for so many reasons, right? And, I never took any of that on, so I didn't have a real issue with that as far as forgiving myself. What I had really not worked through was the issue of forgiving my abusers, right? So that's where we're at. So you have to listen at your own discretion, and to all of my shows. They're not for younger children. They're adult, mature audience only. I put a warning on my page because I really want people to realize that this is not for younger children. And it's not for people who are sensitive to the subjects of abuse, right, of anything regarding abuse. So you have to know what's good for you to listen to. You listen at your own discretion. It's clearly your choice to listen. If you think the topics of abuse, of any type of abuse material might bother you, you have to turn the show off. It's your discretion, right? And young people under the age of 18, 18 and under, I ask that you have permission to listen to my shows. Have an adult listen to the show with you, and they can help you make a decision whether you should be listening or not age appropriately, right? Because really we all have to be responsible for what we're doing and what we're listening to. If you think the show might trigger you as a survivor, that's where you need to be careful, because you alone know your triggers. If you know yourself, and if you don't, you need to kind of find yourself and figure out what your triggers are. And if you think this type of material, of any type of material like this out there on the web or on the television or radio or wherever in the media, books or whatever, you need to know what your trigger points are and keep yourself safe, right? So if you think that this show might bother you, the topics of abuse might bother you, it might trigger you, then you need to be responsible for yourself and turn it off or change channels or do whatever, you know what I mean? Because this is ultimately your responsibility. And, we need to be careful what we're doing, right, as survivors, right? So Becky says how to forgive. So she says, if you're a survivor, have you forgiven yourself yet? And said that she took on a lot of guilt from her abuse, and Becky's a survivor as well. And so she was carrying it around, for her whole life, and she said it had controlled her life for almost 20 years. She said I had allowed my abusers to control my life for almost 20 years. And so she says, so the question is how to forgive. She says, well, I needed the love of God to help in that, and I also needed me to see the little girl inside of me. I needed to take a long, hard look at her and say enough. She had enough and suffered enough, right? She says, I was the grown-up now, and I needed to take care of her. No one else could do it but me. She was my responsibility. So she's talking about her inner self or her inner child, and she says, I needed to forgive myself so that she could be at peace. She says, when I did forgive myself, I felt such a sense of peace in my soul that Words cannot even describe it. Along with the peace came a feeling of personal power. She says, no one else was controlling my life anymore. I finally could control my own life. With that came such enormous freedom, she says. So she says, forgiveness was the key to my new life, and I believe it is the key to yours. She says, it can open the door to personal peace, joy, freedom, and power. And she says, as I said earlier, the key in how to forgive is knowing that the abuse wasn't your fault and believing that. Only then can you give yourself permission to forgive yourself. Well, yes, I don't see, that's where I don't have a problem with that, because I never took on the the whole belief system that, oh, it was my fault that I was abused, or it was, it was something that I did. I never took on that role. What I mean? Like, I believed some of the stuff that my mother mainly told me, just because she drilled it into my head for so long. I sort of took on the belief system of, that maybe I was just not worthy and maybe shouldn't have lived, because she was always telling me that, that I should have died and all this, and she should have killed me, or I wasn't worth anything, sort of thing. And so I sort of took some of that on, but I didn't take any of the guilt as far as that goes. I mean, I knew who my abusers were, and I knew it was their fault. And, so I didn't take any guilt on. I had a lot. So I was talking about that last week on Friday, really. Most of my stuff was coming from a place of anger and rage, because I was mad, because I was angry because of what they did to me, and also I could never get what I needed from my mother or from anybody in my family, really. So, yeah, it was mainly anger-based, and not even so much shame-based, but a whole lot of anger and just disappointment and the realization that I could never change that, and how was I going to heal from that? You know what I mean? It's not like I can go back and be a child again and get that, in reality. So what I had to do was kind of spiritually and looking back, reach in, to my inner child and my inner children at these different places where I was wounded, and create a safe place and get them out of that abusive stuff that they were still in, get them to a safe place, and then create a safe environment for them, nurturing environment. And myself, I've been working on a whole lot of self-nurturing and trying to take care of myself and take care of things, right? And so, it's still a process. I'm still working through, but I don't have the same anger and rage surrounding all that, because really, thankfully, I've been able to work through a whole lot of it. But I just think this is really interesting to look at here, this whole idea of forgiveness. I see a whole lot of survivors out there on wherever, social networking sites and whatnot, who will say stuff like, I've forgiven my abusers. And then I see other people posting underneath those saying, how could you forgive them for what they did to you? And I've actually had somebody do that to me, because I wrote a post a long time ago, actually, that said that I had forgiven my abusers, not the acts that they did, but them. I forgave them. Just not what they did, so I don't think I'll ever be able to forgive that. But and then I had somebody write underneath one time, well, how could you forgive your mother after what she did to you? And I mean, really, so many survivors would be feeling like that. How could we forgive something that is so unforgivable? And that's a real hard issue for a lot of people. It is clearly our choice, right? And she says, Becky even says that. She says, just like recovery, forgiveness is a choice. But she says one that you deserve, that you have suffered enough, right, that we deserve to be able to be free, right? The issue is that it's clearly our choice, and we don't have to feel pressured to forgive, or, I have actually told people that, because it's like, even if I choose to forgive my abusers, doesn't mean that I have the right to go and push other people into forgiving their abusers. This is a completely personal choice, right? This is something that a person has to make on their own. A survivor decide on their own what's gonna help them to get through, and what's going to be the decision on that. That's truly their life, and they have to be able to live with it. And so if a person can't forgive, I believe that is truly their choice, and that's fine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have an issue with that, because I don't feel the need to be butting into people's lives and telling them what to do. For me, I'm a Christian, and I believe that I should forgive, because because I read the Bible, and I know the Word of God pretty good. So, I'm still learning. I have a lot to learn, but I know the basic fundamental stuff, And so I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, I know I need to forgive, and because that's really what my God calls me to do, right? And then, but in the same sense, I know that my belief system is really quite interesting. That God made me and created me, and knows my strengths and weaknesses, and knows knows what happened to me, and I truly believe that he knows my heart. And so that's my God, right? And so I'm not all that concerned with my decision. I don't feel guilty about my decision. So in other words, I don't take on that. I only take on guilt when I do something that I know that I've done something wrong, I've hurt somebody or done something I shouldn't have done, that I know that I'm accountable for and responsible for, and then it's like, okay, I take on that responsibility of that guilt. But I don't take on other people's guilt, and I don't take on the guilt of, spirituality stuff. I don't take on guilt, you know what I mean? And I'm glad that I don't, because guilt can, cause people a lot of problems. We already have enough problems dealing with this stuff, let alone adding more to it by feeling guilty for things that we didn't do or had no control over. So that's why I don't do that. You know what I mean? As far as forgiving my abusers, my mom, my dad, and my brother mainly. It's a hard road, like it's a hard decision. People would say, no, it's not. It's real easy. You just say, I forgive them. Well, I already did that. See, it's an issue of the heart, right? I said I forgave them, right? I did that on purpose because I said I forgive everybody who's ever hurt me my entire lifetime. I released them. I did this years ago, at least 4 years ago, because I wanted to be free, and release them. And in doing so, I would release that, carrying that stuff released me, right? And so that's why I did that, it was a good feeling to do that. And also because, I want to be a better person than they were, right? I do want to be a better person than my abusive parents and my brother. So I think, well, if I'm a better person, then I would want them to not go to hell. You know what I mean? If I'm a better person, I struggle with my own heart, right? Because I was abused as a child. So, people would say, well, look what your mother did to you, and look what your brother did to you, and look what your dad did to you. Don't you wish bad stuff on them? No, I really don't. Part of me wants to, because part of me is still that little person who was so wounded, that little child who was so mistreated and had a heart full of hatred, right? Because that's how they taught me to behave. They showed me how to hate, right? They created me my God created me, and then they twisted me, right? And so, part of me wants to hate them. Part of me wants to hate. I do hate what they did, but I'm talking about them as people. Like, part of me wants to still hate my mom and hate my dad and hate my brother, but the other part of me doesn't. The other part of me says, no, but I'm the better person. I'm the bigger person, and I'm the soul and the spirit that is so much more like. I'm the one who can be so much better. So in me having a heart of love towards anything, makes me the better person. Totally, it does. Because my parents were hateful, right? They never did love us, right? And even on my mom's deathbed, she wrote this little card. She could hardly write because she had so many strokes and stuff. But she hand wrote this tiny little card. I love all my children, right? But the thing is that didn't make up for the years of abuse and her telling us that she hated us, that she didn't want us, and she was clearly trying to hurt us, and that's exactly what she did. That little piece of paper that she wrote on didn't mean very much in the scale of things, because she was on her deathbed, and I think she was starting to feel like, wow, I was a horrible mother, because that's what she said on her deathbed, and it was obviously true. But the thing is that all of our lives, all of her children loved her. It's not like because my mom abused us or my dad abused us that we went on to abuse them. It's not like one of those situations where the parents abuse the children and the children grow up and then beat on the parents. We all loved very much, and I could speak for all of my siblings. My siblings, the only time they ever became violent was when they were trying to help my mother and keep my dad away from my mom, right? When they would actually then step in as teenage boys, and keep my dad away from my mother. But, they weren't beating him up or anything. They were restraining him because my dad was crazy and he was mentally ill and he was trying to rape her and trying to kill her, and he was just a miserable man. And so they would keep him locked in his bedroom, and they would kind of keep vigil of, my teen older brothers, right? And so, they never, became abusive like my parents. See, we didn't take on that. We didn't take on those roles. Now, two of my siblings went on to abuse their own children, and I thought it was great. Thought it was just fine. Just wonderful, But they were the two oldest siblings as well, which is kind of weird. And they were, one of them's still living, and he's just, he's lost soul, you know what I mean? He's married and he thinks he's got a great life, but he hates everything, right? So as far as I'm concerned, his heart's full of hate, and Who put him there? Well, my parents did, first of all, but the issue is he had a choice to change, right? And so that's why 4.5 years ago when I made this decision to change my behaviors and change my life, because I could see the way it was going. And I thought, man, I'm just going to end up like my abuser parents, or I'm going to end up like my abuser siblings, who hated life and hated everything. Why do I want to do that? I have a heart that's capable of love. I have a heart that's capable of compassion and empathy and all the stuff that's good. So why do I want to allow my abusers to still dictate my life? I have to change this. So this is where I was 4.5 years ago, making these decisions to change it and to really work on it. And so that's what I've done. But it's been a long, hard road, because a lot of stuff I don't recognize that I do, that I'm sure, it stems from the abuse that I suffered, and I need to work on so many things, right? So, but I figure, hey, it's a work in progress. It just doesn't happen overnight. Not for me, anyway. Maybe it does for other people. But for me, it's taken me a long time to do this work, 4.5 years. So it's a journey, right? But I'm still sitting on the middle of the fence, riding the fence about forgiveness. I don't know if I because I can say the words. Saying the words doesn't mean anything. You have to actually. It's a belief system, and it has to be concrete in your heart. Like, it would show in my heart if I forgave my abusers. Like, I have said that I forgave my mom mainly, my dad and my brother and other people who have hurt me in my lifetime. I've literally set them free by my words, right? But now it's a matter of actually buying into it and believing it in my heart. Like, have I really forgiven? Because part of my heart says, no, you haven't. See, because I'm real honest with myself, right? I know exactly where my heart is at any given time, because I bother to take a look, right? And it does take time. I spend a lot of time on this stuff. It's not like I spend 10 minutes on it a day. I can be thinking on something for hours and hours that most people would just be watching TV or shopping or whatever. I can't afford to shop, so therefore that throws that out. Watching TV is not interesting to me. I just don't care about TV. And, I've never really been into that kind of stuff. I watch a little bit of television, that's it. And, mainly I'm trying to, I'm on a journey, right? I'm trying to heal, and I'm trying to get somewhere. So I don't really have this other stuff, And so that gives me more time to work on stuff. And also, I don't have any children, right? It's just me and my sweetheart. So, and my pets. So I have time. I have a lot more time probably than a lot of people do to work on this stuff, right? But another thing is I make time. It's not even just having time. Like, I make the time to do it. So, I only have a few hours after work to work on this stuff at an hour in the morning, and that's it. And I make the time during that time to do this stuff, plus to study for an associate's degree and a biblical counseling certificate and all this other stuff. So, I make the time to do it. Whereas, you have to be pretty motivated to do that. But the thing is I am pretty motivated, so that's what keeps me going, right? I have to have little goals and little things to work on, like I was talking about before, because what it does do is at least it does make me feel that I'm getting somewhere, instead of just sitting around stewing and, sort of, it does keep me moving in a forward direction, right, which is good. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, part of my heart says, yeah, okay, we've forgiven them, and the other part says, well, have you really? I don't think so. So part knows the reality is the fact that, yeah, part of me has still not forgiven them. But part of me says, yes, you did. Yes, you did. You forgave them when you said it with your words. And you said you've forgiven everybody who's ever hurt you in your lifetime because you want to set them free, just like you want to be forgiven, right, for hurting people and doing stupid things in your lifetime. And that's true, right? And so, I'm sitting here thinking, you know what, maybe I have forgiven and I'm just holding on to something, So here's what happened to me yesterday. I'll give you guys just a little short rundown. Yesterday I was I wasn't online much because I was in so much pain. Actually, all weekend I was sleeping, mainly just laying down because I'm in chronic pain all the time, but my hips one of my hips in particular goes, and so it throws my back out. It really is very painful. So then I can't walk, and I walk like an old woman all bent over, right? It's very, very painful. So I was thinking about having to go to the chiropractor for an emergency visit, and but I thought, no, I'll rest for the weekend, and I'll see if I can get it to go back in place and do some exercises that I know how to do from the chiropractor. And so I was resting like all weekend, really. Wasn't even online very much, but I was online last night a little bit, searching around for stuff. And about, let's say it was about 8:30 in the evening, not even 9 o'clock at night last night. I had a feeling that I was at a crossroads, and I thought, okay, I'm at a crossroads here because, I can stay wounded or I can move on and be and accept my healing. I mean, I'm at a crossroads where I can say, okay, am I wounded? Am I walking wounded? Am I always going to be walking wounded, or am I going to move to a position of victory? And because I've been talking about this victory for a long time, it's mine, right? And that's victory over my abusers, victory over the abuse that I suffered. Really, it's my victory that I'm still alive here today because I didn't kill myself, right? So it is a victory, absolutely it is. So I thought about that. I thought, I'm at a crossroads, and really the decision is mine. The choice is mine to either view myself as a wounded person, or am I a victor? Am I the person who is overcome, let go, right? Whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. Some people calling it letting go. Some people calling it overcome. I really prefer overcoming because I'm not really letting anything go. I've just overcame, and also being victorious in this, So am I healed? Am I truly walking in my healing journey, or am I walking wounded? And I was at a crossroads last night, and I thought, what? That is so true, because how can I even consider doing the work that I want to do, which is to help other people, if I'm walking wounded, And it's just it was a comfortable place for me to be, because I've been wounded for so long, right? But the issue is that I'm not wounded anymore. And last night, because of the pain that I was in, I was saying, even with this pain, that the abuse that I suffered as a child, and some self-inflicted stuff, and some car accidents, even though I'm in this pain, I truly believe that I'm not walking wounded anymore. Like I'm healed. I'm victorious in this. So I'm not only just a survivor, but I'm a thriver. I'm a person who thrives and overcame, right? And so that was a big thing for me to realize last night, because that was the first time I realized it, and it was just sitting here at a crossroads to decide whether I was going to see someone who was just walking wounded, or if I was going to see myself as someone who was victorious over this and who is really allowing myself to move in healing, which then of course brings about joy, which brings about good stuff, right? Without being in denial. Because years ago I was able to experience joy and good stuff too, but I was just not facing my abuse, right? Because I just didn't want to deal with it, right? But now it was too painful. But now, after dealing with all of it, I come out of this place with joy, And I knew it was there. I was like, I know I have to be able to get a hold of it. I know it's there, joy, real joy, And I know that healing is coming, and I know the healing is there, but I need to find it. And there was all this stuff, that would be going through my mind. Like, I know that I feel pretty good, but how come I can't experience it? Well, it's because I was making a choice to still walk wounded, right? And walking wounded, it's very hard to feel joy. It's very hard to feel good stuff. It's very hard to feel anything, right, when we're walking wounded. And so that's why I thought, crossroads here, and it's my choice. It's clearly the decision has been put before me. Wounded or healed? Which one am I going to choose? At some point, I'm going to have to accept the fact that I'm either still wounded or I'm healed, right? And this was the crossroads last night, because as I sat there, I thought, I have come through my journey, and I truly believe, like I've heard other survivors say stuff like, the journey is lifelong. You know what I mean? There may be things that we still need to work on, and there may be things that we can do better, and there may be things that we can, approach differently. You know what I mean? Learning and living is a journey, right? It's not like a destination. You just end up there and okay, that's it. It's just the fact that at one point or at some point we recognize that we're who we are, right? And it's like, okay, am I Lori Ann Smith, the wounded? Or am I Lori Ann Smith, the healed, the overcomer, the one who overcame and who lives victoriously in that and tries to help other people? Or am I just going to remain wounded Lori? And that was the decision I made last night. And I said, you know what? Okay, no, I'm no longer walking wounded. No, because I've done so much healing work, and I can feel it, like in my soul and my spirit. And I thought, yeah, okay, my body will probably always hurt. I can't get over that stuff. And as far as there'll be drugs later when I get older, I'm sure. And because pain pills, I'm sure I'll need extra pain pills. Like, I've got some serious problems, but it doesn't matter. Like, what really matters to me is like right here, right now, and the fact that I can do so much because I'm no longer walking wounded, and that opens the floodgates for me really for joy and compassion and good stuff. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that I'm not going to ever, what it does do is it gives me the power in my court to be able to really live, right? Not just exist and not just getting by as a survivor, right? Which is what I've been doing for a long time. It's like I can move past that. I can move beyond that. Instead of just getting by as a survivor, I can really choose, like we all can. We can make the choice, but we have to be ready for it. And it's not something that, like, this is what I mean. It's not like last night I was sitting around just reading something and decided to make a choice. The way I was feeling, right? I was at a crossroads and I'm like, this is it. Because I wasn't reading anything about wounded or healed last night. Let me tell you, I wasn't really, that wasn't something that I was checking out yesterday or something, right? This was a feeling that I had in my heart and in my spirit and my soul, right? That I truly was at a crossroads and needed to make a decision. Because there's so many things that I want to do. And I can't do them walking wounded, right? So I'm talking about my heart, my spirit, my soul, right? I mean, my body will always be wounded, right? There's just been too much damage done to it. But the issue is my soul and my spirit and my mind doesn't have to be, right? So it's my choice. So last night I made a decision and I said, you know what? I choose to be healed. I choose to be walking whole. And that's why I called my show really, the whole issue, because really whole has everything to do with it. I choose to walk whole. And even though my body doesn't show that I'm whole, I know myself inside, that my heart and my spirit and my soul, like my whole being is whole, right? And healed. And I feel a lot better than I did, even like yesterday. So, it's clearly a choice, that we can make. But I think that we have to do it when the time is right. I don't think somebody can sit there and say, hey, I want to do that too. I'm just going to be healed. It's not a matter of just wanting to be. It's a matter of whether or not we are in that position to say, hey, I feel so much better. So there's no pressure on people to make these decisions. They have to happen at the right time, And I've been doing a lot of this thinking here obviously, if you've been tuning into my shows, for months and months and months and months and months, right? So, actually years, right? The last 2 years, really, everybody gets to sort of see what's going on inside my head for the last 2 years. And, I've come, a long way, So it's not like it happened overnight. And I knew at some point I was going to have to make a decision, but I wasn't sure how that would come about, right? I wasn't sure if it would be so conscious. I didn't realize it would have to be such a conscious decision. But maybe that's the only way I can deal with things is in reality, consciously, right there in my face sort of thing. Probably that's the case, that's just my nature and just who. So, there it was, staring at me last night. What are you going to be? Choose. Going to be wounded or are you going to be healed and help people and do what you know that you can do and that you want to do? And in doing that, what it does is help me move into a position of self-worth and self-reliance and, hey, I can do this and, and I can help other people to see that they can do this because really I want to be a crisis counselor. I want to be a suicide counselor as well, a suicide prevention and intervention person. And I also want to do biblical counseling, life coaching, Christian life coaching, and all kinds of other stuff. But I can't move in that walking wounded, right? And so last night, a choice was put before me to make a decision whether I'm walking wounded or whether I'm walking healed. And it wasn't something I decided to do just because I have so much work that I want to do. I was actually able to make a clear decision based on how I felt. And it was just at the right time. So that's why I believe there's a time for everything. And that, you'll know if you're a survivor and you're just having a hard time, you'll know when that time is right, when you'll start to feel better and you'll start to realize wow, I do feel better. Wow, I do have choices. I can make better choices. I can do these things for myself. Or, so many times, things we needed help so many years ago. If we may find it hard to help ourselves, right? And we need to learn how to do that, right? And how to face it and say, well, it's okay. So we'll pick up that here tomorrow. Thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. And my good friend Gypsy, which has just been such a huge, powerful part of my healing journey. In helping me to get where I am today, and I really appreciate it, and I love her dearly. So many people also have been here, almost every day, Chris and a whole lot of other people. Thank you all for being here and being part of this with me, because you certainly have made a huge difference in my life. I don't think I could have done it without you, and that's being real, for real. I thank you so much. So we'll pick back up here tomorrow, same time, same place, and from Becky's website, Soul Expressions Abuse Recovery, looking at how to forgive, and we'll continue on. So thanks very much. And, if you're having a hard time coping and you're just thinking, man, I can't do this, you make the right choice for yourself, and you get help. You phone a crisis line. You do whatever you have to do. But you make the right decision for yourself and get some help, because that is the right decision. It is always the right decision to never give up and to always reach out for help. That's the correct and only one correct solution as far as I'm concerned. We have to get help, and we have to allow ourselves to get help. So do not allow yourself to be destroyed. Not at all. You stick around and get some help, whatever help that is, right? So take good care, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.